Hey, good morning, everybody. What's up? All right, so let me turn on my Cintiq monitor. Okay, let's talk a little bit here. It's been a while. Some of these discussions that I tend to have with myself about art, I'm going to kind of move to this little morning podcast. Doesn't mean it's going to be daily. It's just going to be whenever I need to work things out verbally. So I do get a lot of praise from some folks out there on the internet from how organized I appear to be. But really, that's kind of an illusion. What it really is I think a lot of my process through. Uh, and then when I figure out what I'm going to do, I show that, and it just looks like I'm organized. But what happens is I get into a little bit of a pickle, like I am in right now, where I don't know how I want to do something. So let's just work it out together. So I'm going to go ahead and just snapshot this really quick. So I'm working on Game Cave stuff here, the comic portion. If I go back to my initial, let's see if it'll load up. So this is my initial little sketch I did in my sketchbook. Really just roughing in the idea that I'd have an intro page to Game Cave where I'd set up the planet, a little bit of a universe stuff. And then there'll be this like world map for the planet, and Game Cave is located inside this rocky pumpkin looking dome called Fort Jacks in a town called Briar Bay. And then we get a close-up of the actual store. So that became this version with all the menus and text. Ultimately turn on the text and menus by last night. And it's taking too long. So my goal with this was to get the pages done somewhere between 4 and 8 hours a page, which is pretty good. But I'd like to get it down to 6 drawn and be able to color it. Ideally, I'd like to be able to draw these in about 4 hours and color in 4 hours and be done. But I don't know how much that's possible right now. But that's the goal. The goal is to be able to do all my pencils in about 4 to 6 hours, and then another 4 hours of coloring tops. Maybe 2. But I don't. See, that's tough. I'd like to be able to draw and color. See, this is how I work out. What would I like? And then what is the realization of that? Let me put on a little music here real quick. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. Sometimes this music helps me think. So, okay, let's think this out. So, 8 hours drawn and colored would be the goal. Is that possible? Probably not. What it really looks more like is it's 10 hours drawn and colored per page. Now, let me show you why. So, some of the things I'm having trouble with right now are what to draw and what to do in color. I don't want to illustrate, how do I say this? I don't want to spend 12 hours noodling things, right? I kind of want to draw what's important and do like roughy, concept-y looking stuff for everything else to get shit done. Now, I have 4 hours a day to work on this stuff with my current workload, Monday through Friday. And on Saturday and Sunday, I have to be able to do home stuff and moving forward commissions and whatnot. As well as, if I don't have those two things, in Game Cave graphic design, because there's a graphic design element. And when I'm not doing that, Megavision's graphic design. So that's 4 times 5 is 20 hours a week. Now, if I could get it down to drawn and colored 10 hours, that would ideally mean I could finish 2 pages a week drawn, colored, and lettered. It's pretty good, considering 10 years ago it took me 16 hours to pencil a page. In order to get to that, we got problems. So, one, like, I did this background. So this Game Cave, this is the Game Cave shop, and we actually modeled this out in 3D, and I've shown this off before. You can see here. Let me turn that multiply off. But normal. You can see there's the shop, and this is more of like a block model, like an idea of how I want it to look. Some of the scaling's a little weird. I thought it'd be much bigger back there, but I don't like the way that looks. So I changed it. We put in buildings. And really they're there for reference more than like trying to trace over every little noodle. But I decided to give it a shot. Like, what would it look like if I just sketch over that really quickly? Two things. One, this took like 30 minutes. That's a waste of time. Two, I'm going to have to reduce the opacity on that when I go to color for atmospherics. There's just no point to it. So I went and did a version this morning where I just quickly lasso tool around each building, and with two midtones, a dark and a light and a highlight, so three midtones, I just blocked in some loose, you know, stuff there, and that's looking pretty good, except it's in black and white, and I don't want to do a lot of gradient map work on this if I don't have to. So that would have to be all in color. See, this is the thing, like what parts do I draw? What parts do I save for color? What is that? So let me put loop mode on. Assign loop mode. All right. Let's see if that loops. I got this new soundboard I'm using. So that's the thing, right? Like, so I could draw stuff like this, but even then, like some of these buildings, man, like they're taking an awful long time to sketch out. So that's the other thing too. Like when it comes to my digital work, using the silhouettes to block stuff in is really great, and then drawing characters that way is super fast. Like I'm pretty good at that. When it comes to background, buildings, stuff like that, sometimes it's just faster for me to draw it by hand. So let me show you like an example. Right, so like I did this little color test right here. So like this right here was all drawn digitally where I blocked in a silhouette and sketched this out. And it went by fairly fast, but when I'm looking at like this little isometric thing, you know, like for me to figure that out digitally might take 10 times longer than to like manually, like if I block it in, do a sketch, and then I could trace over, how long does that take versus I have to sit there and time it out, you know, and that's where I'm at with these initial pages, like how long things take to do. I'm not trying to micromanage my time. This is another page where what am I trying to say? So I'm not trying to micromanage my time where it's like I'm trying to see it did not loop. Did not loop. Why does that not? Let me just leave that button on and see if that works. So I'm not trying to create this unrealistic pressure when I'm working. I'm just trying to figure out like what is the optimal use of my time. So drawing characters, fine, but like a lot of these loose things, these loose characters are going to be in the background, these like vague monsters, no point. You can see the line quality here is going to be less, but on these characters, but compared to this, but once it's colored, it's kind of irrelevant. So man, it's just a lot of this stupid stuff that I'm working out. Like, let me show you this. So, all right, so this version, I was going to put a house right here. And this I just scribbled in my iPad really quickly. Let me turn that texture off really quickly. And then I did, I drew on my own a version of that. And it took like 2 hours. I think like I spent like an hour sketching out this little house. And then I just blobbed it in and drew over it and came up with this in the same amount of time, fully colored. So that's where I'm like, well, maybe it is faster. You know, like, I don't know. See, the thing is when I started drawing comics 10 years ago, I just did what a penciler would do. Because I think like a penciler, right? Like even though I think, and that's weird, I see in color, my drawing style is still very mechanical. I draw things. So I saw everything as like, see, the music did not loop. That is so weird. It's supposed to loop. Oh well. Set loop mode. There we go. That should work. So I don't see things like still the artist side of me doesn't want to draw things in color. Like I'm trying to merge that concept art the Roughie, remember those like backgrounds I did with the Illustrator version of me, because I would spend 10 hours. Let me show you something that drove me crazy, right? This is what caused me to never want to draw comics again, okay? I'm going to dig into me old Monstroids art. I'm going to show you something, like just one of the many stupid fucking things I did that drove me batshit crazy. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's start with this right here. Was traditionally drawn on 2 sheets of 11 by 17 paper. Okay, and this is going to be the Monstroids. They're fighting this giant monster, and it was like these buildings, drawing these buildings like this was pointless. This could have just been loose concept shit, right? That I could have painted in. Then I had to hand this over. So this is like probably spent about 20 hours drawing this, you know? And then I had to hand it over to a color, so to like separate it and do all the colors and pull it apart. And then I went and added menus and stuff to that. Let me show you the final versions of those colors, so you can see where all the effort that went into this. So this is the final version. I did the menus, this lettering stuff, all these little like diagnostics, right? Power bars per each guy. And then my colorist at the time, Diego Rodriguez, he did these colors, right? And look at all this stuff had to be pushed back and separated to pop out all the characters. And at the end of the day, you're looking at like 50 hours, right? Like 50, 60 hours to get to this point. And you look at it in 2 seconds, and then I'm like, well, if that's 4 hours of my day, that's an entire like fucking 3 weeks to do 2 pages. That cannot be, you know, like that's the image. That's like the Image Comics, the worst version of Image Comics, in the 90s, where it takes an entire year to do like 20 pages. So, no good, guys, no good. So we went from that traditionally drawn. I got carpal tunnel, and then I moved to going fully digital. So this right here is 100% digital. Okay, this again, I cut my time in half. I got this all done in probably 16 hours, if I remember right. But it's a lot of noodling, right? Inks and stuff. And even then, let's see if I got the color version of this. Did Diego finish the color? I think he definitely finished the colors. So we got the color version of this. And it's like a lot of these characters kind of fell into the background, so you can't even see half the shit. And it's not his fault, it's just the way it has to be broken up, you know? So, I was like, man, it's a lot of effort, you know, to get to that point. So we get to that, and then this never got colored. This is them fighting in the rain. And so, like, I looked at this, and I'm like, you know, this was one of the last pages I ever did where I was like, I need to stop and rethink how I'm doing work. And so we come all the way back 10 years later where I'm redoing how I draw comics. And like I'm trying to find this cartoony, you know, concept-y version where you're not getting cheated out of line art, because I do want people to buy something of quality. You know, you don't want it to be complete scribbles, but I can't spend too much time working on things that aren't important. What is and isn't important, and what can be done in color. You know, what can just be done 100% like in color. So here's a test page I did. This video game Bombcat and Cacho Pyre called Little Reapers. So I did this little test page layout where they're kind of walking through a level. It's like a run and gun where there's like commentary, and you'd see these characters are kind of tiny and they're going through the different levels, and there's items, and you know, it's a little bit weird to read, but it's just my own way of drawing comics. Now, to concept this out digitally, like I can block it in, but to draw the buildings and stuff, to do this sort of thing hurts my head a bit, you know? So it's like, that's why I did this manually. However, this took like 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours to kind of like work out. And so then I'm like, well, if that's one day, that means I only have 4 hours to draw the remainder of this. And I can tell you right now, I'm still looking at 2, 4, another 6 hours of art. It's 10 hours to draw a page. You know, I'm right back where I started. So I'm confused, folks. Super confused about what I should do. You know, I'm super confused because I love these layouts. This is exactly the kind of thing I wanted to do with this book. I have a hard time arriving at these layouts digitally. For whatever reason, I don't know. Like, I don't know what it is in my head that just, I can't get past this. It may just be where it's like, all right, you know, it's a drawn page for 10 hours, and then, you know, it's another 4 hours to color, you know? So, I just don't know. I don't know. You know? So like this took way too long to draw. So this right here, what I did is I did this initial test couple pages where I took the opening, put it all in here, and set it up in one page. I took this idea and broke it into 3 pages because I just think it's easier to follow the story, the setup for the story, if I just sort of work it out. So this is what I'm doing. This is the madness that I'm sharing with you. Like it's maddening. It's entirely maddening. I can't cram this into a 60-second podcast too. Look, I'm not trying to get out of doing the work. You know, I mean, I follow a few artists, you know, and sometimes we get caught in this, like, you're trying to count every minute and shave off, how can I get this, how can I get that done quicker, how can I get this? That's not what I'm really trying to do. What I'm trying to do is not spend my time noodling things that will be irrelevant. And then I spend 10 hours on something that I probably could have easily got done in 8, simply because, you know, I just redid the work in color anyway. So that's the thing. And I'm really not going to know for these first 4 pages, like what that is yet. So these first 4 pages are going to go incredibly slowly. Sad to say. Like, take this map, for example. So this game map, this overworld map, needs to have these waterfalls back here, which I kind of forgot about. Because that's the other thing, too. Like, I'm designing this world as I go. Like, I have some concept art, but not a ton. So I did this little blocking where water would go. And this water, like, I'm not going to draw that in, man. I'm just going to be like, that's called map edit. I'm going to lock that layer, and then when I go to color, I'm just going to go over this shit and erase what I don't need and put it in there. As well as, like, clouds and stuff. Like, I actually sketched in a bunch of clouds. Where is it? Where is my cloud layer? It's in here. It's in here. Here it is. So let me pull this out. Turn that up. So, like, these purple things represent where clouds are going to be. So I'll have to block all that in. But yeah, when I see like this sort of loose scribble background, like that makes more sense. Like, it's falling out of focus by the level of rendering versus me drawing everything and then blurring it out or some bullshit like that. You know? And then drawing what's... So the way I'm thinking about it is illustrating what's in focus and then doing color roughy paints for everything out of focus. That's actually what I'm trying to arrive at, you know? That's the post-render. The setup, how long does it take to get to a fully set up page, is questionable. Like, I still don't have it down. So I have my full outline. It's 24 pages long. I have the issue fully outlined. I did initially pay a writer to convert that outline into a comic script, but given my layouts are so weird, that didn't work out. So I'm just taking my outline and running with that, like basing my layouts on the outline, which is working fine. And then I refine the dialogue in this part or after this part. Like, it just sits there. This dialogue may not be the final dialogue. I tweak it as I go. But what part of that is me sketching on my iPad really quickly? What part of that is anything traditional, right? Like, I don't need to sketch this out traditionally. That's an easy thing. This ship moving around, easy thing. Blocking this stuff in, little more difficult for me digitally. I don't know why. Like when I'm drawing buildings and stuff, like when I have a piece of paper tangibly, it's easier for me to block that stuff in. But then when I go to like clean this up, you know, I don't have a really good plan for that yet. Like, should I just do it all in color and sketch over and just do like a roughy paint? That might be the way, and then draw them. So like the only thing I really draw here cleanly would be these two, and then this stuff I could turn it down. So I don't know. When I get there, I'll get there, right? What I don't want to do is come here and then overdraw all this stuff, and then when I color it, it look bland. Like when I say bland, I don't want it to look. I want it to look like concept art, so it has. See, the cool part about concept art is you can see into the layers, right? Like you see more than is actually there. So when you clean everything up and then add a clean polish of layer of color on there, to me it looks generic and flat. You know, so the problem is I have this like stupid technical way of drawing things. I have to train my brain to be looser in that execution, if that makes any sense, you know? More like a painter. Like I had to learn how to draw technically to understand all the shape construction, and then I have to undo that as a colorist so that I'm not killing myself, you know, because this is production. This is it. This is why I stayed 10 years out of drawing comics. But I want to draw this stuff. Like, I love creating this shit. Like, I want to draw my own little universes and stuff. So in order for that to happen, you know, it's going to be a month or two of this back and forth. Okay, that didn't work. Try this. That didn't work. Try this. This is why I'm not doing commissions right. Like, this layout is too... This is when I was initially going to draw the comic at 8.5 by 11. And this is too much detail for an 8 for now it's 5.5 by 8.5, so it's like manga size. So I could probably fit this much info on a page, and I'd have to resize things and structure it. But you see like this little isometric, like Rad's office, like I could easily blob that in digitally, but when I want to work out where the desks are and stuff, like that's just easier for me to manually do on a piece of paper. So I gotta figure out. This is a complicated, stupid way of working out, you know, how my mind works. If that makes any sense. I'm rambling. Fun daily podcast, huh? Fun daily podcast. I'm certain we all go through this. Everyone does. Cool part about this stuff here is I get to reuse these elements a lot. So anytime Bobcat goes back to Briar Bay, I can reuse this menu option, like right here, right? I could shorthand it too by putting the planet and the name of the planet right here. Like this is like a shorthand version. But boom. So the menu, yeah. So, but it's just like how clear does that read? I'm constantly printing these out too. I have like a black and white laser printer. So I print it out at size so I can make sure that everything's legible. Yeah. Hurts my head. Well, we're almost at the 30-minute mark. I don't want these to go longer than 30 minutes. So what is it I need to do now? So what I'm going to do now is I've verbalized a lot of this stuff. Then I'm going to sit down next, write out what I want to do, what I'm attempting to do. I'm going to actually sit down. Let's sketch, right? So I'll write down in my notes here. So we got to go all the way back to the top layer because I don't know. Right. I'll sit down. I have in my iPad, I have this thing called, was it Good Notes? So I'll write blah, 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 what I want to do. And then I'll break it down to roughy, like outline, roughy, you know, and then based on the roughie, based on the roughie, I need to choose what if I have something that I don't know how to get to digitally, then I'll print it out and sketch out I'll only sketch out traditional art for unknown layouts, right? Like things that I'm like, I don't know, or ISOs. So like ignore this blah blah blah. I'll actually write all this shit out. And then I'll go to, okay, production, you know, sketch what's in focus, concept art, BGs, you know, out of focus. And that might be cool. Like I've tried a few things before on covers where, let's say I have a character coming at you with the hand, right? And then maybe back here, it's less in focus. I'd like to like draw this, and then when we get back here, it's super like loose. Like I want to make sure that I'm only drawing and noodling, like if I had a boot, like, you know, and then the character's back here. Like this could be like all worked out, and then back here it's just super loose. I'll just let it fall into the background. So it's like trying to combine versus drawing everything super detailed and then going in as a colorist and doing everything super detailed. Like that, there's no time for that. So it's just a new way of thinking that I have to, for the next couple months, I have to nail. That's the goal. That's the only goal here in the halls of SketchCraft. The halls of SketchCraft. In the Sketch Cave is to put all of my best efforts. So in the next couple months, I can get back to doing commissions on weekends and doing color pencils and watercolors. But I can't do that right now and figure this out. So drawn, colored, and lettered 2 pages a week is the goal. I'd hope for 4. That's impossible with only 4 hours a day. If I had 8 hours a day, I think that would be possible. 4 hours a day, no chance. So, but 2, that's good though. Drawn, colored, lettered, complete, you know, at a professional level. I'm accepting of that, you know, 2 a week is 100 pages a year, you know, roughly. So, every 18 months, it's a new graphic novel. So, that's where we're going to go. Moving forward. That being said, the Game Cave, this is the Game Cave shop. This is where they sell their games. Rad's office is up in here. And below it is the actual cave. So below, there's 5 levels, 4 or 5 levels of game library. So if you remember, you can go down there and it's like a giant library of video games. You can take them out, play them. There's an arcade room, and it's separated by each era. There's 4 eras of their magazine. So there's like a block of time. And then this right here is the time in their universe to our universe. So this story takes place in 2013 or 497 GM. GM, just there's these different eras in their universe. And I will in the book have a time chart and how that's all broken down for the people that give a shit about that sort of thing, but it's not 100% necessary. It's what they call it, flavor. You know, it's flavor stuff. So there's that, and then over here is a cafe where Mochi makes treats and food and shit. And then over here is the store where you go pick up your games. It's got like a little vaulted ceiling, and yeah, that's that. And then Bombcat, the 5th level is where they store all their stuff. So Bombcat flies her ship into here, this docking area. There's a docking area right here. She flies her ship here, and then within this tube, this giant port thing that sticks out here, there's a train, an underground train where you can take all your supplies and resupply stores and shit. So the resupply is done underground. This Fort Jax used to be a military outpost during the war between monsters, or Dejuma as I call them, these demons. The Dejuma and the humans used to be at war, and this was like a military outpost back in the day. So now it's a city. The military castle goes to the center of it, and then there's a little city that's based around the castle that extends out into this dock, and this is like one of the big port areas for this particular country, which is called Gravenstein. Gravenstein is located south on their planet. There's different continents on there and everything else. And the story of Game Cave itself will travel around that planet. So we will get to different planets too in the story. There's a planet called Ductween, which is where I get to have all these my DuckTales style adventures, duck creatures. There's a casino planet called Jackpot. There's a trash planet called Waste World. So there's different sectors. I will eventually in the book put an actual space map, so there'll be a full space map. You can see how their shit's laid out if you care. But look, all that aside, you can create all this backstory and you can create all this flavor and these histories for the characters, but that doesn't make a character arc. Like that's flavor that helps, you know, inform where your character's been. When people have questions, you can answer them, but that doesn't develop a character. So where your characters are at now, you still need an arc. You still need your characters to be missing something and they're trying to attain something. And the story is whether they succeed or fail, you know? And so I've spent a lot of time in the last 4 years devoting myself to my free time to developing that. So yeah. And now we're back into production mode. So, but yeah, like this sort of loose, I like the way that loosely works back there, you know, compared to this liner. Like that's this magical blend of herbs and spices. That's the goal here. That's what I'm trying to work out. Thanks for putting up with this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you're trying to give me help on using software like Rob, why are you using Photoshop? Use Clip Studio Paint. Just say that for yourself. I'm not looking for that advice, okay? I'm not looking for it. You use the programs you want to use. I use what I use. So I like my Photoshop CS5. I don't have a problem drawing in it. So I'm going to put that out there. But I'm still going to get those stupid... I don't like them, folks. I don't like when people are like, you could just use this program, it'll solve all your problems. It really won't. I don't have a quality of art problem. I have a how much time versus what people look at, you know, is spent, you know, problem. And there are no YouTube videos for this. There are no plugins for this. This is 100% based on your individual skill sets, you know, where you're at, and it fluctuates. And so right now, I'm going to fix all that. Because I could spend 12 hours, 20 hours drawing the shit out of this building. I can make this 10 times more detailed than you see now. Like these are little pumpkins that are laying out around here. I could draw all this stuff, but it really won't matter once it's colored. Especially when it's 5.5 by 8.5. You're just going to look at it in 2 seconds. So it's like that, folks. That's where we're at. All right, thanks for hanging out. I'm going to get back to it. We'll do some more soon. Peace, everybody.